your full name, please?
Ashley Kevin Rouwendal van Schijndel.
I have your date of birth and your address, but what is your professional occupation?
I'm a manager at BDO IS.
And your connection to this case, you have been a participant in writing the BDO report? You're now going to give evidence before the court as an expert witness. In doing so, you are obliged to tell the truth and also to emphasize possible doubt you may have. Sorry. You must not withhold information that are of importance to the case. I inform you that it's a punishable offense to provide a misrepresentation or to lie to the court. I will ask you to make an affirmation regarding your duties as an expert witness. So I ask you, do you affirm that you will tell the plain and whole truth and not conceal anything? If so, repeat after me. I do so solemnly affirm.
I do so solemnly affirm.
Thank you. You may be seated. Wright's attorneys will start by asking you questions. The other party might have some questions, and I might have some questions.
Thank you. Mr. van Schijndel, if you could begin by explaining to the court briefly some words about your background and qualifications.
My professional qualifications, I have a master's in computer forensics and electronic discovery from the University of Glasgow. After that, I spent 8 years on the Dutch National Crime Unit within Team Digitaal and Internet, which was a specialist computer forensics and cybersecurity team. And after which I briefly did research at the University of Oslo before I started working as a manager at BDO IS.
I think I will start by following up from Dahl's testimony with regards to method and testing environment. Did you, in your review of the KPMG report, have trouble repeating experiments to assess what has happened with the documents and to repeat findings and so on?
Yes, there were some instances where I could not replicate the results KPMG put forward.
Let's look at some of the findings in the report from KPMG. If we go to page 1163 in the KPMG report. We see under 3.2.1 metadata from reference files. Can you say something to us first? What is the meaning? Why are they presenting these 3 reference files?
So as I understand, the SSRN document is a document in online repository authored by Dr. Wright, and the bitcoin.pdf is a document was online, which is authored by Satoshi Nakamoto, and they're using bitcoin.pdf as a reference document to compare it to the document that is on SSRN or hosted by SSRN.
So we had heard described that this document was uploaded in 2019. Was that correct?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
And SSRN, that's a third-party site. Someone else runs that?
Yes. Since it's not run by Dr. Wright.
To do any testing of findings related to this SSRN document, how would you obtain the file?
You would download the file via the link provided on the download page of the SSRN repository.
And were you able to download the same reference file as indicated by KPMG?
We downloaded the file sourced by, referenced by KPMG as the source where they retrieved it from. The file we retrieved had a different hash value than the one referenced in the KPMG reports. I'm referring to the SSRN documents. So we retrieved it from the same sources specified in the report, but the hash was different, and we tested it several times. So I cannot actually say that we had the same report from SSRN.
To be more specific, if the 2 documents have different hash, Can they be identical or must they be different?
They must be different. The idea of hashing is like a digital fingerprint. It takes all the ones and zeros of the file and computes an alphanumeric string. And the string is used as a fingerprint to identify a document. And then the idea, well, file, I should say. The idea is that if any change occurs in a file, even a minor change like just a 1 change to a 0, that the entire alphanumeric string, the hash value, will change. So it is a way to check for the consistency and integrity of files. So in this case, the file we downloaded had a different hash value than the one stated in the KPMG report.
Can you tell from the hash if the difference between the documents is big or small in terms of perhaps just a number has been changed, or could the whole document be different?
There is no way to see just from the hash value comparison how much has changed. So even if the idea is if a single bit or byte in the file changed, you'd have a very completely different looking hash value. So from the hash values, I cannot say if a little has changed or a lot has changed. There's no way to tell.
I think this is interesting because this is sort of a finding. There's something unexpected with the document. So I want to ask a little more about this. Did you, we heard on Friday, KPMG state that the most likely scenario to explain the difference in hash was that the file on the server side has changed, that the uploaded file on SSRN has changed since KPMG did the report. Have you checked the file on the server?
I can only check the file on the server as I download it.
Does the server or does the website tell you when the file was uploaded? Is it in a new file from 2021 or 22?
It only specifies the date listed, which was in 2019. There was no other indications of dates.
Does that indicate that the file is the same as uploaded in 2019?
It doesn't necessarily indicate that. It just says that site says this file was uploaded in August 2019.
But is that an indication of the file being uploaded in 2019?
That is an indication that the file was uploaded in 2019. Yes, sorry, I misunderstood.
Is there also a ticker or a counter on the file saying how many downloads of that particular file?
Yes, there is.
Do you remember roughly what that was on when you checked last?
It was in the several thousands, 3,000 or 4,000, 4,000, I think.
Would you expect that to mean that the file has been there for some time, or that it's quite recent?
I would expect that to mean the file has been there for some time.
In your opinion, based on what you have described in terms of the server situation and what has happened, is it more likely that the file has been changed on the server, or that it had been changed due to something happening on the KPMG side of things?
So I will say that both options are plausible, but in accordance to likelihood, I find it more likely that something happened to the file after it was downloaded and before it was hashed in regards to KPMG.
Okay, and this is interesting. If I play the digital forensics officer, what sort of alternatives do we have here, Van Gindel, in terms of what could have happened? What are your theories on the KPMG side? What could have gone wrong?
I'm not very comfortable speculating on that.
I'll help you. Could they simply have pasted in the wrong hash number in this table?
Yes, that is entirely possible, that they simply pasted in the wrong hash. But I believe yesterday they didn't say that.
Could they have opened and stored the file and caused a little change in the file to make it have a new hash?
If there was a situation where a user downloaded a file, opened it, and then saved it again, it might have constituted a change within the file, depending on what the program does with it. So if they open it and saved it again with a non-forensic software, that is a plausible reason.
What if you had a different, if you save it with a different file name, will that impact the hash, or doesn't that affect the hashing?
That should not affect the hashing, no.
Can you conclude on either of these, what actually happened, or is this just speculation?
I do not know what happened in regards to why the file the KPMG had was different than the one we downloaded from their reference source. It is, on my part, speculation on what might have happened. All I can say is the file we downloaded that was sourced by KPMG from this online source resulted in a different hash than was documented in their report.
So moving on, in terms of your job of assessing or verifying findings based on this reference document, did this in any way impede or affect your investigation?
We did have doubts if we should then continue with this document, because a hash being different than a reference source is significant, but we saw that the information inside the document reflected the content KPMG had analyzed, and we were also working on the assumption that they did use, in fact, that source, so we decided to continue with it. But we were wary of the idea that it had a different hash and was therefore a different file.
Okay. Moving on to a new topic, several files in this bundle are sheets of paper that have been scanned. Are the metadata connected to that scanning of any interest to this case?
I would say no. If these documents were paper documents, as I understand it, and they got scanned by at some point a user or the people who collected it, or for the courts, I'm not sure, then the metadata would reflect the digitized version of a paper document that happened. So that would be reflective on the results from the scan, not any information related to the original digital documents.
And then we heard that the other side were asking your colleague about page 1171, about editing time. So if we go to the report, page 1171. As I understand KPMG in their testimony on Friday, they were uncertain why there was a difference between created and last as compared to total editing time. They said they were not sure, but there was a difference. It says in the report that this can indicate that the clock has been manipulated, but they also say under other observations on the third line about the timing that this is an approximate, seconds are not counted and can explain the deviation. Do you have some comments on this topic raised by Advocate Haukås today on the editing time and so on?
So this was an interesting piece of evidence that we analyzed. We saw the large editing time, and in our testing environment, wanted to recreate the scenario to see what would happen. So in one of our virtual environments to simulate a 2008 Windows XP environment, we opened a document, wrote in it, let the computer hibernate. Then after a long period of time, took the machine out of hibernation, opened the document, and we saw that we also had a very long editing time that reflected the hibernation period. It was also interesting that after KPMG's testimony on Friday, because they were still adamant to their results, that I tested again this weekend past. And I tried, because we were quite confident on our results from our Windows XP machine in simulated environments, that did in fact happen. We took screenshots of it. I tried to simulate in a Vista machine with a 2007 version of Word instead of 2003 version. And there I saw that taking the computer out of hibernation did not reflect the long hibernation time in the editing time. So I got a strong indication that there may be a change in how the editing time is handled between a Windows XP environment and a Windows Vista environment, because the operating system became a newer version. So yeah, I feel like I should add that.
Okay, so that was a lot of information.
Yes,
on Friday, we heard KPMG state that if the computer